Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the sixth and sadly the last in this year's series of Conversations on Glass by Apice, taking place as part of the Italian Glass Weeks, an international festival dedicated to glass, both artistic and industrial. The first week took place in Milan from the 10th to the 18th of September, and the festival is now taking place in Venice, where it will continue until Sunday the 25th. My name is Camilla Purden and I work as the coordinator of the Venice Week of the festival. And this year we've been presenting a series of daily panel discussions online, Conversations on Glass by Apice. Apice is a leading transportation company for works of art and particularly with expertise in transporting and handling works of glass. These conversations have been covering a wide range of topics relating to the field of glass, involving speakers from Italy and abroad, with the aim of providing a platform for reflections and discussions about the world of glass. Today's conversation is a particularly interesting one, and I'm thrilled to be introducing it as it involves representatives from some of the most exciting exhibitions and installations that have featured as part of the Venice Week of the Italian Glass Weeks this year, as well as a couple of members of our valued curatorial committee. The title is Shattering Boundaries, New Technologies and Techniques in Glass Today. It's being moderated by the wonderful Reinhold Franz, who is head of Glass and Ceramics Collection and head of EU projects at MAC, Austrian Museum of Applied Arts, Contemporary Art in Vienna, where he's worked since 1992. Reinhold has curated various exhibitions, including The Glass of the Architects, Vienna, 1900 to 1937, which was at L'Estanza del Vetro a few years ago. And he co-curated exhibitions such as Handicraft, Traditional Skills in the Digital Age. He is also assistant professor at Vienna University and the University of Applied Arts Vienna in History of Ornament. And since 2019, he's been craft ambassador Vienna for the Michelangelo Foundation and for Homo Faber Guide. Just so you all know, we are streaming live at the moment on YouTube. So just to say, if you'd like to ask a question of any of our speakers, you'd be very welcome to do so by writing it in the chat box on YouTube, and we'll pass that on to the speaker at the end of the conversation. But before I hand over to our moderator, Reinhold, I just want to introduce a representative of our sponsor, Apice, Helen Vincenzi, who would like to say a few words. Helen.
Yes, hi, hello to everybody. Thank you for being here. We are always very happy to host these important people who can join us every day this week on different topics. And I work in the Venetian office of Apice, and I'm the estimate manager. So it's a very interesting topic, the one that we are discussing today, because technology is important also in every aspect, of our life. In our case, on transport and packing of fine art pieces, it's always very important to check the best solution, the newest solution, and the most technological way to have the best materials, for example, to pack inside the crate, the newest materials that we always test before packing, or the new technologies to apply to our trucks, to our boats, for the transport. Being this material so fragile, we are used to handle them, the glass pieces, because we are in Venice, so we handle glass almost every day for antique and contemporary pieces. So we try to achieve the best solution in this field using the newest technology. So we are very keen on the research of the best solutions. And I think that all the transport that we do, we improve every day, and we work with a lot of lenders who have important glass pieces, but also contemporary pieces for the Biennale, for example, for L'Estanza del Vetro. So it's very important for us, this research of new technologies and the technology applied in every aspect of this field. So I think it's very important for us to discuss this matter with technicians, with artists, with everybody, to join all the experience, all the ideas to do everything better and better every day.
Thank you very much, Helen. So now I think we will pass over to Reinhold, who will kindly introduce the wonderful panel we have and to kick off the conversation. Thank you so much, Reinhold.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Camilla, for the introduction. And I'm very happy, and it's an honor to be the moderator of this talk this afternoon. And I'm happy that we have made it to put together for a very important, to my point of view, very important position in positions of designers and artists working in the field of contemporary glass. Our topic, Shattering the Boundaries, New Technologies and Techniques in Glass Today, is an outcome of actually experiences that we, also Camilla and Susan and I have made in the selection for this year's contributions to the Venice Glass Week, because just coming back from Venice and being in Vienna again, what I've experienced is that in autumn 2022, where we are now, we see glassmaking in Venice and around the world struck and deeply changed by the extreme costs of raw materials and energy, and by the shortage of energy. And the classical glassmakers have to close the furnaces and send their maestri on short labor. So one of our questions I think that we have to focus on this afternoon is, what is the answer to this situation, and how can we push these boundaries that we are speaking about, forced on us also by the political situation? On the other hand, this year's edition of the the Venice Glass Week gives us a very positive approach, because we've seen multiple examples of dedication in finding ways to get to appropriate use of the newly developed glassmaking techniques in the world of art and design, 3D glass printing with Julia Körner's work, the use of vitrum vivum in the melting glass like bronze, and Ronnie Pesel's work. So we see new approaches with Maria Koshenko's work and Tanya Park's works that are very important additions and parts of this year's hub exhibition. And last but not least, Susanne Lucas' work and her dedication to what she's doing as a glass designer and artist, and a teacher, and what she's doing for the Bornholm glass shows is very important. So I think we are very lucky to have brought together the four. And this is also for important female positions that stand for hope and for the future, because an answer in my point of view, can be the way for the way of glass making and glass design and glass art is the use of new technologies, and I think what we should also discuss in this hour is how do we see these technologies? Are they only new means, means to develop a new approach, or is this something that goes away from classical glass making? So there are many questions, and I think it's good to start with an approach that is newly in this year in the Venice Glass Week, and we are very happy that Julia Körner is joining us this afternoon. We are very proud of Julia's work. She is with us from Los Angeles. Good morning, one has to say to you. Julia is an award-winning Austrian designer, and we here at the MARC in Vienna, we have shown her work also in the context of fashion this spring in our branch in the MARC Vienna and the Gemüse and she is for us. She really bridges and gives the connection between tradition of Austrian design and modern contemporary design and an architectural approach that has brought her to 3D printing. And Julia's work stands out at the top of these disciplines, and her designs have featured in the National Geographic magazine, in Vice, in Wired, and the New York Times, among other publications. And in this I like very much, in 2019, Archinect named Julia Körner, I quote, "Architecture's queen of 3D fabrication," which is I think you can't get any higher. What we would like Julia to talk on, and this is what she is showing in this year's Venice Glass Week, is her very up-to-date cooperation that she's working on with the Swarovski glassmaking firm, and really new approach to form making and the use of glass that Julia is showing in an installation in the Gritti Palace in Venice at the moment. If you have the possibility to go there, go and see it. It's really fascinating, and especially like the combination between the portrait of a Gritti Doge and Julia's work. And Julia, I would ask you to give us a short introduction to your approach of glass and how you went into glass.
Yes. Thank you very much for the introduction, Reinhard, and thank you everyone today to joining the talk, everyone on the live stream, and I'm really pleased to meet everyone on the panel also to see your work. And I think one thing what is really exciting is that for the first time I had the opportunity to show something in Venice. Personally, I have a close relationship to Venice. As a child, I would travel every summer and every spring, every Easter actually, to Venice, because I grew up in Salzburg in Austria. And so we spent a lot of time in Venice when I was a child, and was always fascinated by all the different glass pieces. And so it's an honor for me to be part of the Italian Glass Weeks and to have the opportunity to show the work there. So having a background as an architect and also professionally working in architecture academia, I'm a professor at UCLA, where I teach in the architecture and urban design department. And I'm also the founder of two companies, one in Austria, JK Design, and one in Los Angeles. And everything is under the brand of JK 3D. And so what I'm going to show you today is the new project, which we did, the crystal lamellas. And before we get into that, I would like to show you a little bit more about new technologies and how they kind of enable me to work cross-disciplinary as an architect between product design, fashion design, art, and installations. And going back almost 17 years, I studied at the University of Applied Arts in Vienna, actually next to the MAC. And the university had the first 3D printer there. And I was fascinated by the opportunity that you can make these geometries you create on the computer, you can make them tangible and visible in a way. And this direct output between digital and physical was also something I looked a lot with the designer Ross Lovegrove. This was a light design we did in 2008, actually, for Artemida, the cosmic leaf. And it was one of the first products which inherited this kind of parametric design in lightning design. I work a lot with technology, with robotic technology, with installation design, where everything is developed in the computer. And so, for example, in this installation, everything is a plug and pull system. I do a lot of work in fashion and additive manufacturing. I'm kind of a pioneer in the sense that I research materials, innovative materials, how you can apply them, how you can work with geometries. You can work with various different technologies. 3D printing is not just one way. You have many different technologies you can work with and many different materials as well. So whether it is a design which is innovatively 3D printed in multicolor on a fabric, this was a design we did for the Philadelphia Museum of Arts in 2019 with the 3D printing company Stratasys, or whether it is innovative products made out of plant-based resin, which we do with JK3D, where we have our high clutch, which we produce entirely in-house, locally on demand. Or whether it is more on an architectural scale. This was the exhibition at the MAC, where we first time showcased these pedestal designs, which were capturing and showcasing our high clutches and also our fashion pieces. I do also a lot of collaboration with other designers. I did several collaborations with Iris van Herpen. All three of these dresses are now in permanent collections of museums. And I also worked with Ruth Carter on the Marvel film Black Panther. Maybe you have seen it. The crown and the shoulder mantle are entirely 3D printed and meant to represent this highly advanced technological regal attire of the Queen character in the film. And Ruth Carter also won an Oscar, and we designed a 3D printed stola for her with actual Swarovski crystals on it. It wasn't the first time I worked with Swarovski. I did several projects in the last 4 years with Swarovski. I also did my own kind of investigations with glass, worked with a local glass blowing artist, Austin Fields, here in Los Angeles, on looking at the combination of 3D printing and traditional glass blowing. But what was important with Swarovski was that they were a bold company, which made the choice to work with a designer at the very beginning of developing their technology. Meaning I came in as a kind of problem maker. I would design things and challenge the technology and help them in a way developing the technology in a direction where we focused on mass customization, personalization, adaptability. And this is the crystal glaciers, which is 24 spirals, which showcase how quickly you can adapt form and design to have a change and a gradient in character for each. And the important thing is that you don't have to change any molding, you don't have to change any scaffolding, you just have to digitally automatically change the code, the algorithm, and the geometry is then printed in a very quick, advanced way. So moving from this early studies, today's collaboration with Swarovski's innovation team, I would like to thank Graham Henge, the head of innovations, and Hannes Erler, who is the strategic director of innovation ecosystems, for collaborating with me on this project for the Italian Glass Weeks, innovating in kind of pushing the boundaries of what can be done with today's technology and showcasing a new experimental approach to it. So we designed this lamella series with sand printed glass bases, and all 39 vases are all printed in glass and then coated in various different colors. So for us, it was important to showcase the variability of what you can design with an algorithm. But on the other hand, also to have this story of like glass is made out of sand. And so the bases are 3D printed in sand as well. It was also something new I tried. And kind of building up on our lamella series of JK3D. A very great team in Vienna who I work with, and we have developed over the past year this lamella series, which comes as small vases, plant pots, and also as stackable columns. The inspiration from these come from mushrooms and from fungi, and you can see the undulating skills here in this animation. And for me, the inspiration from nature is something which kind of brings us back to the origin of geometry, patterns, rhythm, And for me, this is an inspiration for the design. So early studies, early renderings, we tried various different colors, but we wanted to really be truthful to the natural inspiration. So we worked with color picking software, which can actually extract the colors directly from the inspirational images, started to render them, and then worked directly with Swarovski on developing a new physical vapor deposition coating. And this is an entirely new color. It doesn't have a name yet. So they developed it specifically for this project. And you can see that, and then this was something what was important. We wanted to show the transition from the raw material color from the glass to the gradient of the coloring, which was not an easy process. And we managed to have these variable different effects. One of them was the AB effect, which is the Aurora Borealis effect, which Swarovski developed and invented in 1950s together with Dior. And so it's the first time we kind of looked at how to apply that onto a 3D printed glass object. And then I wanted to also have a transition in the kind of geometry and the color change, but also combined, for example, the AB effect with the color. So you can see here in the exhibition, and I'm so thankful for the Gritty Palace for hosting us this year. So you can see in their Explorer library this exhibition set up, and from the left you can see it's the translucent raw crystal material, which is then moving to the AB effect to the custom coated color effect in a gradient. You can create small production, limited edition, and you can create customization. Each of these vases is different, and each of them takes around a few hours to print. So here you can see a few of the light effects, what you have with the reflection of the glass, a few of these color effects, which you will experience if you go visit the installation, and also from the kind of natural reflections in the design. We designed the installation to be brought from Vienna to Venice. And so we had to think about, okay, how we kind of split up into tiles. And so the idea was to create centerpieces of these 50 by 50 centimeter sand printed bases, which have these variable vases on top. Here you can see a top view. Each of the vases is actually numbered and has an engraving on the glass. So the design is kind of coordinated so that when you place them, you know where they kind of go and the relationship makes sense. This is a kind of top view and the effect you get when you look from the top inside of these vases, and you really get this kind of natural inspiration animation. And I think that there are, Venice is a place which is very much engaged with traditional glassmaking, but also looking at new horizons in a way. It's interesting because when you think about continuing these Venetian traditions with a novel approach, you have to think about kind of how you transform it into a new age. And I think for me, the kind of combination of thinking about traditional craftsmanship and digital craftsmanship, because at the end, it's still the human who kind of designs on the computer, but it's the hand of the interaction with the digital. I think that is something which personally I'm really interested in. And I'm glad that we are showing this for the first time in Venice. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention today, and very excited to share the work and open for questions or to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Julia. I think I was able to visit the and they call it manufacture of Swarovski in Wattens this summer, and see how the things come into being. And and you mentioned it, and I think this is a very crucial thing, and something that we will have to deal with a lot more. How do we see the new digital 3D techniques in glass in combination with traditional glass making? Is this just a new tool, or is it really something that carries us somewhere else? I think that's why I was very much pushing forward to have your position also in this year's Glass Week, because I think it's an important position that brings us further discussion, and it makes visible how important the position of the artist and the designer is in also moving forward technology. So this is, thank you for introducing us to this. I would now ask our my dear colleague on the curatorial committee for the Venice Glass Week, Susanne Joker, to introduce us a little bit in her work, and also from her perspective, the ones of you who don't know Susanne, she's the head of exhibitions at the Royal Danish Academy for Architecture, Design, Conservation, and the director of European Glass and Ceramic Context on the island of Bornholm in Denmark. And but she is, of course, also a teaching glassmaker. She has taught at Pinchot, has been working in Corning, and of course, she is a glass artist herself with this series that Susanne will show us a little bit in a moment. And Susanne, I would also ask you to bring in a little bit also your additional perspective that you have made as an curator for Bornholm, and also as a teaching glassmaker. How do you see the future of glassmaking, and in what way are we shattering the boundaries and with the new technologies?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think maybe we can go to the first slide. Well, anyway, I can say meanwhile that as you said, Reinhold, I'm a glass artist, and I'm also a curator and an educator. And first, I'm showing an example of some of my work, some of my recent work, and it is just one example. I guess you can say that I'm a traditional glassmaker. I make objects blown in glass. I'm very fascinated by the craft, being a craftsman, but also what you say, the material in itself. I try to get the best out of the material, and also, you know, using the traditional craftsmanship. And I make, I guess you can say, traditional objects, blown objects that that you can see here. Basically, there's a short film that I thought that I would show you for the process, and then I will go on afterwards. That you can see here. Basically, there's a short film that I thought that I would show you for the process, and then I will go on afterwards. That Thank you. I think the sound and the film didn't go so well, but maybe you got an idea of the process. I was trained in Sweden in the industry, and so this is also, I guess, the style of work that I do is kind of a traditional object making. But the image that I'm showing here is from an exhibition that I curated in Copenhagen that was called 70% Less. And I guess you can see that there's not so much glass in this exhibition, but the reason I brought the image is that to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do at the Academy to face some of the challenges that the world is facing at the moment, and that I also think is very relevant to bring into the discussion of the future of glass and how would you say both the glass industry and also the makers or the glass field needs to think about how to adapt. And I think you brought that up as well, Reinald. But 5 years ago, the Academy, the Royal Danish Academy, decided to work strategically with the 17 UN Sustainability Goals, because the UN Sustainability Goals, they make a really clear frame of some of the challenges that the world is facing at the moment. So we have encouraged all researchers, teachers, and students to work within the UN Sustainability Goals. And this particular exhibition is called 70% Less. And this 70% refers to our government in Denmark. The Danish government had an ambition to reduce CO2 emissions by 70%. So this exhibition shows proposals of students and researchers and how they work with these different issues within architecture and design. You can go next. Yeah, good. So I brought 3 examples of artists that currently in Denmark are working with some of the issues around recycling. And this image is of Jakob Sebastian Bang and Maria Spar Petersen. Maria Spar is a Danish researcher. She did a PhD in recycled glass, and this project talks a lot about I guess you can say the aesthetic values of recycled glass as opposed to virgin materials, virgin materials and recycled materials. So this project talks about that. This is all recycled glass. You can go next. Yeah, these are some details. So I guess, and this next image is of Per René Larsen, who is also a Danish artist who made this project, next image please, that he calls Easy Living. And easy living, the concept he talks about is how you can easen up your life by cleaning out and also recycling whatever you have. So he basically took a whole bunch of his old work that he hadn't sold and smashed it up and made new works out of it, combined with also virgin materials. So in a way, this shows how this was kind of on a small scale also how to, reuse some of the materials that he had used before, but also I guess his artistic ideas are also recycled, because some of the ideas, they are still evident in the pieces, and you can see them also in the new pieces. Next. This is an example of this as well. And then we go to a Danish craft person, Pernille Bülow, on the island of Bornholm. Pernille Bülow is one of the pioneers of glassmaking on the island of Bornholm. She opened one of the first glass studios on the island. And apart from being a production glassmaker and designer, she's also extremely entreprenant. So she's a businesswoman. And this project that she's showing here is a project that she did in collaboration with Novo Nordisk, who makes all the insulin little pins and syringes. So she got contacted by Novo Nordisk and asked if she could somehow reuse all the little glass pieces that is in the actual little insulin pins that someone who has diabetes, they use one every day. So you can imagine how many that is every day in the world. So she has started, you can go to the next image. And the next one again. So she has started remelting all the ampoules from Novo Nordisk, and she makes them in. They are, of course, a different kind of glass that you don't usually use for glass making. It is a very what we call it quick. It's very quick, so it gets stiff very quick. So it's very hard to blow actually. But she developed a series of production that was made for Novo Nordisk, but also a whole series of production for for tabletops and interior design and this kind of thing. And this is an example of that. And these three examples that I show are, the methods or people that are trying within the scale of their work to reuse materials, but in a way, the glass is the small part of it. I think somehow there is a need for sort of bigger strategies, and it's good that you raised the question, Reinhold, on how do we proceed towards making glass, because it is a very energy demanding production method, and how do we move forward, not just in the products but also in the production methods, and it's a good question to discuss.
Thank you very much, Susanne, for introducing us into this Danish approach. I think Denmark is far ahead of many of us other countries in Europe in your efforts, and I was really, in preparation for this talk, I was really amazed about the steps that you have already taken. I think it's a good example for us to bear this in mind and stay in conversation with you about what's the state of art and design in glass making in Denmark at the moment. Thank you very much. Coming from this to one of this year's participants in the Glass Hub exhibition, I would like to bring in Tanya Park into our conversation. Tanya Park has a master's degree in art from the Royal College of Art in London, and a BA in industrial design from the Academy of Fine Art and Design of the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. And she's working there as head of the Glass and Ceramics department. And she has won several international art and design awards, as well as artist residences around the world, and including the Corning Museum of Glass. And I'm happy to bring her in because Tanya, in my view, you also stand for this underrated and very important tradition of Slovenian glass making that was, for example, so important also for the development of Viennese glass making with the early collaboration of the Lobmeier firm already in the 19th century with Slovenian glass mills. Your objects and what you're showing in the Glass Hub this year is a very special approach that you take, and in preparing our conversation, you said you were about to break this and shatter these boundaries that we have been talking about in the title of this conversation. And maybe you would like to introduce a little bit what you are showing in Venice and your approach to this, if I may ask you for your statement, Tanya.
Thank you very much, Ronald. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all. Yes, as I mentioned, I was trained first as I have my BA from industrial design and then MA from art. And this is, for me, a wonderful combination because it lets me maybe to quicker or better problem solving with large scale installation, and also gives me that systematic approach to whatever I do in art, which I think it's very important. So when I do my art pieces, there is always the story that is most important for me and the expression. So this is why I'm always looking for new ways of using the material to convey some new meanings, not to use whatever is there, but really to push it, to push a technology, to push the procedure, to push the material to its limits. And right now you're showing the piece that is done in traditional blowing technique that I did at the Czech Symposium in Novi Bor. But we were trying to push the limits in a scale-wise, and also here I was trying to use just inhale, exhale, no tools, because it really went with my concept. It was all about breathing in, breathing out, and so on. So it was no touch involved here. But when I'm talking about other installations before coming to the one that is in Venice now, I would maybe like to stress out that I am not so much using really these new technologies yet, I will say yet, because I intend to, but rather really trying to find what's new and unexplored in the new ones in terms of different combinations, different usages, and so on. So one example would be, for example, reveries. Yes, this installation here, where I really searched for how I could bring the feeling of fragility, something that doesn't have any weight, like a ballerina when she's on the tip of her toes, and there is something really difficult behind, like here, or the whole glass process, but it looks like it would be floating, or she would be floating in the air. And so here I was really trying to explore different techniques. I was trying to break rules. Whatever I knew about fusing and slumping, I tried to turn it upside down. And here I was trying to avoid molds as much as possible, to shorten the procedures in terms of everything that Suzanne was mentioned before. So this is one of my, I would say, not new technique, but something that happened when I tried to explore and experiment as much as possible. So the other one would be the other example would be the moment after. Here is, this is the old installation, but here was again blowing glass, but without any tools, without usage of any molds. I wanted to use gravity and the heat, and that's all. And just the moment of time that also goes with the concept of the story that is frozen in the certain shape. And then the whiteness, yes, this is another picture of reveries. The whiteness or in-betweenness piece, Camila, if I can ask for that. The big white thing. Yes, this one, thank you. So here, for example, this was exploration of how I could use techniques that were already there and used in Bullseye Research and Education Glass Center, but I wanted to go beyond the limits of what seemed to be possible. So I did a lot of experiments how I could get this surface inside the cast glass. And at the end, yes, it started as traditional mold making, but of course using all the technology that was available there in order of mold making, taking this big piece around, doing the surface and everything, because this piece has 500 kilos. It's just one single piece, so it needed a lot of technology they had there, and a lot of experimentation. And so this was a challenge. And then if we come to these pieces that are on show in Venice, the silence, for example, that piece was done in the silence piece, the tree. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So this is now on show in Venice, and here I was at the residency at Musée d'Ouvert in northern France, and I was exploring that undefined border, the line between the sea and the sky that is really, really, you can't see it. And then I was translating it to the constant theme that I have in my work, which is the search for this undefined line between being and non-being, between here and there. So again, I wanted to translate that into material. And I always wanted the material to become almost non-material, I think. And here I was playing just with the saturation, using the thickness of the glass, and really matching it to the colors of the sky, of that particular area there. Here I was using traditional techniques. Yes. So for me, it's always constant exploration, experimentation, and using whatever I think it could be possible in order to achieve the meaning or the expression. It's never just taking what's there.
Thank you very much, Tanya, for introducing us to your approach, which I think is also very fascinating, and because it's you're very direct, you're very pushing the boundaries to the utmost possibility of within the traditional techniques, but without bringing in too many tools, so to say. And I think this is very important. It was very feelable in what you showed also in the Glass Hub. And last but not least, we are coming to a glassmaker who on not only the glass week in Venice, but also on the arts biennale this year. We are happy to have with us Maria Koshenkova, who has had her work in the Danish pavilion of the Biennale as a going into the dialogue with the artworks there. And I must say I've seen Maria's works in the pavilion, the Danish pavilion, Palazzo Loredan, and one is again and again fascinated by the fleshiness and vitality of your work. And maybe Maria, you would like to introduce yourself a little bit and give us an insight of what is your decision of using glass and how you came to your approach to glass.
Hi, and thank you for inviting me. I'm actually feel a bit misplaced in this conversation because I'm not really using any new technology in a way. And I think when you think about new technology in glass, you would firstly think about 3D printing, of course. And I think what Julia showed, it was very impressive. And I think that's what you probably imagine when you talk about new technology. And so I'm in a way, I don't know if I'm the right person to be here, but thanks for inviting me. And I came from an art background, and I'm a Russian living in Denmark, working for a long time there. And as I say, I'm not really using, I'm quite low tech, and I'm not using really new technologies, but I think what I do, I'm actually was always recycling. It was funny, Susanna, that you mentioned Perinet, because actually, in a way, he learned this from me because we met with him in Berlin in a residency some years ago, and I'm actually I was always doing. I was recycling my own works, my own sculptures in a way that, and it's firstly it didn't come from a conscious decision of caring about environment or caring about energy, but it simply came from lack of skills and lack of money, because I think, okay, I don't have more money to pay and I don't have enough skills to make big work. So what I actually was doing, I was creating smaller pieces, putting them in the oven, picking them up, transforming them. If I don't like them, I feel like, okay, I cannot afford to throw them away. I actually have to remake them. And glass is a material which can constantly remelt it and melt it again. And I was using it from start. And in a way, also now I'm also more and more thinking the larger scale I come and the more resources I use. Like now when I do my works, I actually need a team of like 3-4 people. And it's cost a lot, and I feel like it's not only energy as gas or electricity, but it's a lot of energy, like just human energy, like hand power. And it's, you know, a good glass blower have to blow glass for 15 years to be able to work. Like I feel like it's a lot of resources. Glass is super resource taking, how to say, thing. And now I'm just feel, okay, I don't want to throw it away, not only material, but just the human energy. And I feel every time I do my works, everybody's exhausted. I'm exhausted, glassblowers exhausted, everybody's tired. So I feel like it's too expensive to throw it away. So I'm actually you can probably go to the next slide, I don't know. So maybe if you go to the last work, actually, I can explain this recycling thing more. Yeah, this one before. Yeah, so this work actually, this what I did recently in USA in a residency, and this is actually 2 works which I didn't like, and I put them back in the kiln and I connected them myself with these tubes till I was satisfied. And this is basically how I do all my work. So I put them back and I add the elements, and so that's somehow a recycling I do. And now I do more and more conscious, and now of course, I firstly go for sculptural expression. And for me, glass is a sculptural material, and I think it's very much under-evaluated in a way. And I guess this is kind of, I don't know if it's not a new technology in a way, but I think if I would try to fit myself into this conversation, I guess what I do, I think there is many things which assumed not possible in glass. And like, even like, I don't know, this is just like a test which I did myself, but here I basically combined all kind of glass. I combined things which I found in the trash. I combined my piece, and then I combined custard piece, which I did several years ago. So, and often when you work with glass, you hear you cannot do that. You cannot blend this glass because it's cracked. You cannot combine this. You have to wait this amount of hours, blah, blah, blah. And I'm actually testing constantly these boundaries, what you can do. And I realized that you can combine many different things. You don't have to wait 20 hours. You don't, like many things which assumed as rules actually are not true in a way, or at least they're not true for me. And I think, so yeah, in a way this, and yeah, I don't actually know. Like, I mean, I'm very, in a way, manual, and I'm use drawings and I use my hands to work with glass, and I'm using tools which are maybe not tools like a hammer, scissors, or whatever I find. So, but I can't really call it a new technology.
What you just explained, Maria, makes it very clear that you're fitting in very well, because you are shattering the boundaries, and you're breaching the boundaries. And so to say, that what the specialists call you keep everything in the batch of in the glass oven in the end, and I think this is also feelable in your work, that this is has an organic entity in it that's is kept together. Just to bring in the others again now, thank you for this first round of introducing your approaches, and I think.
Oh yeah, you can just go back to the slides. Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I can maybe say about the castings. I don't know if you just go through the slides, like, yeah, that's the one to raise.
Yeah. This is the pavilion, for the ones who not saw it, in the Danish pavilion. And
yeah, this work actually, I don't know also how is it a new technology, but here in a way I also recycle. I found the old furniture, and somehow because where is this idea glass is in a way handicapped material. It have to transport special way, it have to be exhibited a special way. Everything about glass is like so special, and you have to take care all the time. And I feel in a way I want to mobilize these handicaps of it. So I kind of wanted to put it on wheels, and I wanted to include the metal structure, which was also used furniture, which is not in use anymore. So I kind of wanted to combine them together to give the glass more mobility and make it less handicapped in a way. So that whole series of work is about that. And this would kind of, I guess what I work with is to make glass less handicapped and more, I don't know, more mobile in a sculptural way, if it makes sense. I don't know. Does it?
This brings you together with what we've heard from Julia in the beginning, because mobilizing the glass, Julia, this is something that you're also very much working on, if so to say, of course from a different angle. But it's to sum up this first round, I think we've seen 4 different positions that show us that the glass is by no means a material that's overdue, but it's something that can inspire from many angles, from the production design angle, from when thinking about methods of making sure that the technology and the glass technology is also usable in terms of saving energy and material, and also from the expressive side. It's Tanya, in your work, and in your work, Maria, is also so feelable. And because what's I take with from these first presentations that you've made of your approaches is that glass is a perfect medium to give us an impression of human feelings, and also mirror human feelings. That,
yeah, because it's actually immediate. You really have this immediate kind of impact on it, and I feel like actually all these works, I feel like I could put them back and I could manipulate them again, and it could be in real time. So it's really actually like most of them I make, and then I work on them, and then I put them back, then I heat them up, add something, break something. So, and you can keep doing it forever. Actually, it's in a way, it's very expensive material energy wise, but it's also it can stay forever, and you can modify it forever as many times as you want. And this is like pretty cool, actually.
And for example, Maria, Tanya, you told us you are already on the way of going into 3D printing technologies and all these things. Maria, is this also something that interests you in the future? Would you?
No, I don't. I really don't want to do any 3D printing. I think it's many exciting people who do that, and that's not me.
But it's interesting because you're, as you said, you're taking this more sculptural approach, and if you take Julia's work that she has shown to us. What I take from your work, Julia, it's this sensual approach. It's and this very natural oriented approach that is important for you. Would you agree on that?
Yes, I think it's the interesting thing for me is the kind of relationship between nature and what the technology allows you. When you think of, for example, plants in nature, they grow all by one material, but then have different stiffnesses and different hardnesses. So a tree then grows the bark, but has the leaves and has the flowers, but it all grows out of one single material. And when you compare that to the 3D printing technology, you can create objects which are all made out of the same material, but by controlling the geometry, you can implement different performances. And I think that kind of relationship, I saw a lot of panelists also spoke about sustainability, and additive manufacturing is one of the most sustainable technologies, because it only really uses that material and that amount what you need. There's almost no waste, and the glass which is waste you can recycle. And so you can also, right now we're also looking into 3D printing with recycled material, and I think that will just change the entire approach of how we manufacture and produce products. And I think that there's a certain beauty in that, and a certain opportunity to rethink how we create things in the world and how we are more responsible with our resources.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that statement. I think this is very important. And coming back to you, Susanne, what, from your perspective as part of this year's selection committee like me, and from your experiences with the Danish glassmakers and the Bornholm experiences, what do you think, to what extent are, in your view, the new technologies helping or hindering the traditional art of glassmaking? Because, of course, you made it also very clear that you're more into the traditional field.
What should I say? I mean, I don't think it's ever been an issue that you know, I know that I introduced myself as a, you know, traditional glass blower, but that's just because I was trained that way. But it never kept me from doing anything new or doing things new or inventing new things. So I also think I don't actually really like you know, this discussion about, you know, the tradition. Of course, you have to keep tradition, but you also have to live in the future. But in a way, I think you know, we have to. That is a very small discussion, in my opinion. Yeah. It's a very small discussion, and like Maria said, you know, you can. It's your own, what do you say, creative thinking that brings you to the next level on how you want to create your work, and. But I think there's a larger discussion that we have to take and that we have to engage in. And the larger discussion is the resources that we are in, you know, and we all have to somehow adjust into that and find ways of, you know, because, I mean, the problem was there before we had, you know, right now we are experiencing an energy crisis, but the problem was there before that. It just, maybe it was very visible, but maybe it just became a little bit clearer after, you know, gas prices went up really high. So you know, I think that is a larger question, and I don't know how that should be solved. I know that, you know, at the Academy, when we started working with the UN sustainability goals, nobody really knew what to do from the beginning. But we kind of thought, if we keep talking about it all the time, then you know, something is going to develop. And I think it has to be the same, you know, and it has to come from also industry, and it has to come from other places. How do we develop means, and how do we also think about virgin materials and reused materials? You know, how do we think about the aesthetics within that, and how do we talk about aesthetic sustainability? You know, something that, and also you know, I like Maria's thoughts about how you can morph your material into something new. And really the glass part of it is very small, because it's, you know, if you think about the glass that goes into a sculpture compared to the glass that you use in your kitchen to all your, you know, to all the things that you eat, that's a lot of glass as well. So, you know, if you think about the actual material, but I just think that, and I definitely don't have the answer, but I just think that our field is very energy demanding, and everyone has to somehow work with that to find new ways into the future.
Yeah, thank you. Tanya, you have reminded me that I maybe have misinterpreted you a little bit in saying that you're on the way to 3D printing. Maybe you want to make your points?
No, I just wanted to add, I think I wasn't clear enough, sorry. No, I would never give up the touch of the hand and that fingerprint on my glass. I'm very traditional after all. But yes, I do want to use 3D printing in terms of mold making, direct mold making, to actually also to avoid waste. We tried that at the academy and it worked out really, really well, or just with certain parts. So it's not direct glass printing that would interest me, but really use it in a process of making glass. And I agree with Susan, yes, thinking about how we can make things with less energy consumption and less material. Yeah, that's the goal.
I think we have 4 very strong statements here from women designers and women artists who are really pushing forward glass, and so this gives us a lot of hope for the future of glass making. And maybe, I don't know, Camilla, maybe we should open now a little bit also for questions from the public. Is there other questions?
I sadly think that we have reached the end of our session today. It has been so wonderful hearing you all. So I think also, as I'm sure it's a Friday, either Friday evening for some or a busy Friday morning for others, depending on where you are in the world, we better wrap up. But I would just like to say on behalf of the festival, thank you all so much. Really the most fascinating and inspiring hour. It's been just so interesting hearing from each of you about some of the work that you've been doing in glass, in some ways how you've been pioneering in your own creative practice, and hearing about all the different approaches that you've been taking. You've really reminded us, I think, about the extraordinary scope and seemingly endless possibilities that glass as a material offers. It's so exciting to hear about the work that you and your collaborators and students are doing in various ways to kind of explore and test the boundaries of the medium, and also great to think what might be next on the horizon in terms of your own individual work, but also in general for the material. And I'd just like to say how pleased and honoured we've been to have you all as part of the Italian Glass Weeks this year in your various ways. This conversation reminds me how fortunate we are to have such talented and also eloquent pioneering artists and technicians, teachers and researchers such as all of you taking part in the festival this year. And it's amazing that thanks to technology we can also join together from LA, from Vienna, from Copenhagen, from Ljubljana, and obviously Venice too, to have this discussion. So a huge thank you to Julia Korner, Suzanne Jocher-Jonsson, Tanya Pak, Maria Koshenkova, and of course to the brilliant Reinhold Franz for this really, really excellent conversation. Thank you also to our sponsor Apice. We're most grateful to you for supporting this program. And to everybody who's watching at home, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure you've enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. If you missed it, or if you know others who would enjoy it, the good news is that it's been recorded and will be available shortly on the Venice Glass Week YouTube channel. And I know lots of people use that as a source of, we've had many conversations this year, but also in the past couple of years, covering a total spectrum of topics. So it's a great resource for hearing leading speakers from the world of glass, so you might enjoy exploring that later in general. So yes, as I said, I think we better draw to a close, but once again, thank you all very, very much. And I hope to see you in Venice physically very soon as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.